Hello crocheters, and welcome to our Christmas in July crochet along for 2020. This year we are making the Darcy deer pattern, which is right here, and you can actually see the finished one that we made in this tutorial right back there. So one of the really fun things about this pattern is that it can be a little bit versatile in that you could make it a buck or a doe or a fawn. So let's talk about those a little bit. So obviously the version we have here is just a buck. A male deer, it has horns. In order to make it a female deer, a doe, you would just leave off the horns. Everything else would be the same, but you wouldn't worry about making the horns. If you want to make it a fawn, I'll show you an example of one that I made. All I did that was really different was that I added some spots. So let me grab that out really quick. So back when I was designing this pattern in the very beginning, it took me a long time, and so I had a lot of like different pieces, attempts at the pattern that I had made, and so I finally just took some of them and assembled this. And this isn't exactly according to the pattern we're going to make today, but I did turn it into a fawn, so this kind of helps me illustrate the point. So here on this one, all I did to make the spots that make it look like a fawn was I just took some white medium weight yarn, threaded it onto a needle, and I just made some crisscrosses, and I tried to lay them out so that they weren't like ever stacked directly on top of each other. So I've got 2, 3, 2, and then 1 back here. And then if we take a look at the back on either side of that like spine row, I've got 3 and then 2. And then the same thing on this side, 3 and 2. So that was what I did. Obviously X's are not the most realistic. If you want to go for a more realistic fawn look, you could definitely go ahead and like magic ring single crochet 6, 7 or 8, something in there, and then you could sew on a bunch of little spots. That would be absolutely adorable. If you wanted, you could also try maybe using some of the white Bernat blanket yarn and making small X's. If you wanted to be like really thinking about it as you were crocheting, you could even just like switch colors and add some white spots as you go. It just depends on you. I know some people are interested in making fawns. So I just wanted to let you guys know this is how I did it. I just kind of freehanded them, and they're not overly perfect X's. So, so maybe you guys want to try X's, maybe you want to try circles for spots, maybe you want to try color changes. It's all up to you, but I hope you guys really enjoy making the pattern. So when it comes to colors, the colors that I use on this pattern, the main color, which is this brown, is called taupe. I get it at Joann's. One thing you guys will notice, depending on where you shop, if you get the color taupe from, I believe, Michael's, it is a darker color, which makes for a really lovely deer. In fact, I think I'll insert a picture here of like one of the deers that's made with a darker brown yarn. Still looks absolutely lovely. And then the other colors I use, our color B here is white, and our color C is almond. So white you can only find in Bernat Baby Blanket, so that's something to look for. And then this almond color is in just normal Bernat blanket yarn. So yardages for these. On the main color taupe, we use about 180 yards. I'm also going to link a materials list down below here. You can find it on my website. You can print off the PDF so you've got that. Yeah, so you don't have to like furiously scribble notes here, but just kind of give you guys a general idea. We're going to be using about 180 yards of the main color, about 10-ish, maybe a little more yards of the white, and about the same on the almond. The underside of the belly is almond as well. So that's kind of where more of the usage comes in. Oh, and then also we're going to be using about 5 yards of, this is our color D, just black. And so if you cannot find black, or if you don't want to go buy a whole new ball of yarn just for these feet, I'll show an example right here of Silka's deer that she made, where she just used one of the lighter colors she had for the feet, and I think it turned out super cute. So that's definitely an option if you would like. On this crochet along, also something that's a little bit different is that my original pattern, I use this tan medium weight yarn, approximately 20 yards-ish, for the horns. And it pretty well matches the color of the almond here, but I ran out. And so in the deer that we're going to be making in this crochet along, which is this one here, I ended up using white medium weight yarn instead. So that's that. Other things that are important to know. On this project, we're going to use nylons that helps keep the stuffing contained within the project. We will be using some black medium weight yarn. I've got Red Heart Super Saver Solids, I think. Whatever black size 4 yarn you have, we'll use that for the eyes and the nose. And then we could do little white highlights in the eyes. That's also just a Red Heart size 4 medium weight yarn. So I think that has us covered on yarn. Hooks we'll be using for this project. We're mostly going to be using an 8mm hook, or whatever you need to meet gauge. So the gauge on this project is 9 stitches by 9 rows equals a 4" by 4" swatch. So I highly recommend swatching because I know quite a few people who repeatedly have to use a 7mm hook to meet gauge, and I also know some people who use a 6.5 in order to meet gauge. So it just all depends on how you crochet. So that would be my recommendation. We're also going to use a 5.5mm hook or a large yarn needle to do the sewing and attaching, such as like sewing on the ears and the legs and the tail. We will also need a normal yarn needle for like sewing on the eyes and the nose, and then the horns to the head. Then to make the eyes, the nose, and the horns, we're going to be using a 3.5mm hook. So these are really tight. They're a nice tight stitch to keep everything contained. You're definitely going to need a decent amount of fiberfill. I buy my fiberfill in kind of huge bags because obviously I make a decent number of stuffed animals. So quite a bit, probably 16-ounce, 24-ounce bags, something like that, to get it nice and full. And one thing that is very important and kind of unique on this project, and this is partly why I wanted to put this video out early, so people can start getting the materials, but also so you can start saving your yarn scraps. So on the legs are stuffed with yarn scraps instead of fiberfill. So I'm gonna use this deer to show you guys kind of the difference, because I think it's a little more apparent here, probably because I just finished this guy. So yarn scraps tend to, they're just heavier, they're more dense than fiberfill, and so we're using them to stuff the legs so that the legs are structural. They can hold the deer up, so you can set it down and it's not going to fall over or splay out its legs or just crumple in on itself, because it has the sturdiness of those yarn scraps in the legs. So this is something we need to start saving up. I know some people are religious about saving yarn scraps. I know some people are like, whatever, don't even bother me, which I was kind of the latter until I realized that they have some, a nice compacting ability. And also I started stuffing. If you guys have followed my projects for a while, you know this, that behind the soft eyes, I place a little bit of fiberfill or yarn scraps, which just kind of gives them that like nice round 3D effect. And so when I got the recommendation from one of my pattern testers to start just, you know, she said that she used yarn scraps. I thought, well, that's brilliant to stuff behind the eyes. So I started saving them for that reason. So that is something you're going to want to do. It just makes a much sturdier leg. So if you kind of look, I'm just going to do like a squeeze test for you guys, but like this is how well the head is stuffed. Like I stuff kind of full. It's just true. So like that's pretty well stuffed. Then like the legs are just so much more firm because they're really well stuffed with the yarn scraps. Also, if you guys have been making my patterns for a while and you have a bunch of like nylon tops left over, because you guys know I use nylons and everything, you could potentially just use that. If you don't want to like worry about saving yarn scraps, you could use like the tops of the nylons to stuff the legs full. I think that would work just fine. So there you guys have it. Then also, so I think that's pretty much the materials we need. You're also going to, of course, need some scissors, some fabric pins for assembling, things like that. Yeah, so like I said, you're going to be able to find the materials list linked down below. It'll be over on my website. But before I go, I also wanted to give you guys a little bit more inspiration if you're looking for some. So this image right here was one that one of my testers, April, made. You can see she made two deer. She made Rudolph, so she gave him a red nose, and then she made Clarice. So she made Clarice in the lighter colors, Rudolph in the darker colors, and then gave Clarice a bow, which, full disclosure, the bow's not my pattern. I don't know where she found it, but it's dang cute. So if that's a way you want to go, that would absolutely be fun and definitely Christmas themed. And then the last thing, this is just an idea I've had and I haven't done it. I actually thought about making it for this crochet along, but I realized like that's not gonna work because yeah, it's not going to work because you guys are expecting a normal deer from this. But if you are a Harry Potter fanatic like I am, potentially you guys would want to make a Patronus. So then you could make the deer pattern in just like white and vintage white or a silver, or you know, like something like that. You could really lean into this being like prongs or something like that, which I think would be so fun, right? You know, make it all white, maybe hints of cream or something, and yeah, give it little like full moon glasses. Just round glasses, I mean. I just think it'd be cute. So those are my thoughts, my ideas. If you guys have more ideas of how you could use this pattern and have more fun with it besides, you know, a stag, a doe, a fawn, Rudolph, Clarice, a Patronus, let us know down in the comments below. But I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with this crochet along. I certainly had fun making it. And happy Christmas in July. So very last thing, I know I'm going to get asked this question. Can I make this pattern in medium weight yarn or worsted weight? Absolutely. The only thing that you have to take into consideration when you're going to be scaling down or up a project that uses multiple yarn weights is that you have to scale both of the yarn weights. So here on our Darcy deer, if you want to make, instead of using super bulky yarn for the body, if you want to make it in a medium weight yarn, you absolutely can do that. But then that means that you cannot make the eyes or the nose or the horns in medium weight yarn. You're going to have to use something that is 2 sizes smaller if you're going to scale them, because the body is made in a size 6 yarn, the eyes, nose, and horns are made in a size 4. So if you're going to make the body in a size 4, you need to make the eyes, nose, and horns in a size 2. Or you can use safety eyes and nose. Make sure to place them before you close off the head. And maybe just don't do the horns, make it a doe. So that is the answer to that question, which I'm certain I am going to get asked. So I hope that helps. So if you guys have any other questions on the crochet along, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I'll try to get to those so we can all have as much fun in this Christmas in July crochet along as possible.